Okay, we have a quorum, so we're going to get started with our business items. Okay, report on council actions.
Madam Chair, it's Randy Haverfield.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yes. Very brief. We had a city council meeting on April the 4th. We only had 3 public hearing items. The first item was a comp plan or comprehensive plan amendment, text amendment, which we reviewed the impact fees as far as for revisions, the capital improvement plans and associated impact fees for police, parks, fire, and add wastewater, domestic water, and pressurized irrigation to the impact fee approach. We held off on discussing streets. That'll come at a later council hearing. We had 2 annexation and zoning requests that came before us. One was a reconsideration request. Both of the projects that are out off of Northside and Ustick were denied by the majority of the council, stating that the timing and location was not appropriate for the annexation at this time. Infrastructure, utilities, and such were the concern. But anyway, it was we had a long-spirited evening, but it really was around those 3 items. So with that, I'll answer any questions you might have, but don't really have a whole lot else to share with you this evening.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, we're good.
All right, you have a great evening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, staff communication. Rodney.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I am going to present multifamily development and just a report on 2001. And I'll give you a little bit of history in just a second. We are going to have our second quarterly density report coming up here as well. I think it's the next public meeting that we have. But this is just for the 2021 summary of multifamily development. There we go. As you can see, I made the same report to you about just general development in the community, single-family development, and that was back in February, early February. And I showed this slide, but this is just a quick reminder. Nampa has grown at a 10-year average growth rate of 3.44%, according to Compass, our Metropolitan Planning Association. Our estimated population in 2021 from Compass was 110,980. This growth is significant and impacts the city's ability to provide services and maintain our infrastructure. We have to respond to that growth, and that's what impact fees and other processes are for. February 15th, just a quick history, February 15th, I presented the density report to City Council. At the time, there was the data for multifamily building permits was still being analyzed, and Mayor Kling asked staff to return with a report when complete. Council expressed concern that multiple family development approved in Nampa far outpaces other communities. And so we went in and looked at that, did an analysis of multifamily development. The data for this table was provided by Ada County Assessor's Office. It shows that Garden City has the greatest number of multifamily units per capita in Ada County. That's 120.1 per every 1,000 residents, with Boise close behind at 119.4 multifamily units per 1,000 residents. Our closest Ada County neighbor, Meridian, has 60.2 multifamily dwelling units per 1,000 residents. Now, this is Canyon County. The data for this table was provided by Canyon County Assessor's Office. And as the table indicates, of all the cities in Canyon County, Nampa had the greatest number of multifamily units per capita at 69.6 multifamily units per 1,000 residents. The city of Caldwell has the next greatest amount of multifamily units per capita at 57.1 units per 1,000 residents. However, I give you a little bit of caution here. In the year 2021 and early 2022, significant numbers of multifamily units have been constructed throughout the valley. None of these units will be reflected in the numbers shown on this slide or the previous slide in Ada County, because the county assessor's information it lags behind. So you're going to get, at least a year of data it's going to lag. This means that communities with increased construction of multifamily buildings in the past year are going to show significant changes in the number of multifamily units per capita in the coming year. As an example, the city of Meridian has issued 1,216 permits for multifamily units since January of 2021 that are not reflected on this slide. In comparison, the city of Nampa only issued 342 permits for that same time period for multifamily units, roughly 1/4 of those approved by Meridian. Now this next slide, I want to give you a little bit of context here. A permit goes through a process of being approved, then all conditions are complete. So approved, complete, and you can see those on the bottom there designated. And then the permit is issued. In 2019, the total number of permits for multifamily units in the city of Nampa was 721. In 2020, the total of all three categories amounted to 1,003, while those in 2021 amounted to 481, less than half of the previous year. This appears to show a significant decrease of permits for multifamily units from the previous 2 years, though still approximately double the number in 2018. And then this is just a way to show you the preliminary plats for multifamily units. We've called them out in yellow in the bubbles. And again, these are, you're going to see preliminary plats shown on here that are in blue that are not called out in yellow. That just means that they were preliminary plats that didn't include multifamily units. So spread out, across the city. You can see those plats there. And those are all the list of projects and the multifamily units listed there, 687 units total in that time frame. So again, I want to make sure we are clear on this. Preliminary plats, of course, are in advance of multifamily development being constructed, right? It can be 3, 4, 7 years, and so you're gonna see these early on, and then you'll see the result of these approvals over time. But the ones you're seeing today are the result of ones that have been approved years in the past. In addition to that, preliminary plats are for subdivisions only. You can do multifamily not within a subdivision. It could be in the BC with a community business, or a CUP, conditional use permit, and you could do it in the multifamily zones that are allowed in code without having to subdivide. And so those numbers wouldn't be reflected here. And then these are the final plats. These are more current than of course the preliminary plats. These are likely to be within the next few years to be developed. And then I did include in your packet this report by TOK Commercial, real estate agency here in the Valley. They just released their 2021 report and I think it was just last month that they released that. And it describes the high demand for multifamily housing in the Treasure Valley, claiming currently demand remains incredibly high for multifamily product. So you've got that demand You've got the report of the numbers here and the location of where those multifamily units have been approved for. And that's all I have to present to you. I did present this to City Council last week. There wasn't any real response from that, but happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions for Rodney?
Yeah, more of just an observation, but, you know, looking at these preliminary map, the preliminary plat map and the final plat map, and I should know this, and I apologize that I don't, but the downtown core in Nampa, can they put multifamily units in down, because I don't see, I guess that's what I'm observing here, is is there
Yeah.
interest in building multifamily units in downtown? I think that would be a place to go.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Kirkman, this is a great question, and that's where we want to direct development to go. We actually have a current project that is coming into the downtown on 3rd and 12th. Thank you. 3rd and 12th, right directly across from the library parking garage. That is going to be, I can't remember the number of stories. Is it 4 stories? Is it 5? 5-story building, good-looking building, had to go through our design review, had to meet historic preservation conditions. That's really the first we've had in as long as I know. So yeah, there's definitely the capability to do that and the desire for that to happen.
That could spur
That's
a
the
little bit
hope.
more interest in it. Okay, good.
Does 124 sound right to you for that? That kind of sticks in my mind. Was
The
120.
units,
Yeah.
would you guys remember
It's
that?
something,
I don't
yeah.
remember, but it's,
Well, it's close.
yeah. Yeah, you won't see it because it's not going through a subdivision
We talked
process.
about it a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, for the first time, we have a consent agenda to help speed up our business items. So is there anything on the consent agenda that we need to pull out and have discussion on? Okay, okay. All right, then I would entertain a motion to either approve or deny the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, that's a good spot for us to pull something off the consent agenda. How would a citizen pull something off the consent agenda?
This is business items, it's not open to the public.
Well, it says, unless a member of the commission or citizen so requests, in which the case will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda.
Have to be done before the meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do they do?
I have never, in my 20-plus years here, seen a citizen request something off.
No, and I would never expect them to, but I feel like there should be a path for it, right?
Yeah.
Usually come before the
There's
meeting.
no public comment on consent.
Madam
agenda.
Chair and Commissioners, they can request that of us, and we can pull that out on the agenda so that it's advertised for everybody when they come into the
But they just do
meeting.
it before the meeting.
They just
Okay.
do it before the meeting.
Want to make sure, sorry, causes trouble.
I saw that too. I said, well, I can't do that.
Somebody want to make a motion, one way or the other?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, that takes all that out of here. Okay, public hearings. We are right at 7 o'clock, so, okay. So we are going to rearrange the order so that we don't have people who have really quick things waiting for people that have long things. So we are going to do the first 2 items, skip number 3, and then do 5 and 6, and number 3 will come at the end. So do we have the applicant for the action item number 1? Happy Valley Road. Come on up to the microphone and tell us what you want to do.
Good evening.
Might want to pull the microphone down And give us your name and address for the record, too.
Okay, my name is Maria Gallegos. The property address is 29 North Happy Valley Road in Nampa, Idaho, and I'll adjust that.
And my name is Rogelio Gallegos, same address, 29 North Happy Valley Road.
Okay.
Okay, and we're here for the consideration of annexation, rezoning our property to industrial light.
Okay.
And we're here to answer any questions. I'm not sure if there's anything else that we need to.
Just tell us what you
Speak
want
on.
to rezone it for.
We want to rezone it so it could be a auto mechanic repair shop.
Okay. All right. We'll probably have questions, staff will do their report, and then once we go through public testimony, you'll get a chance to come up and rebut or answer questions.
All right, perfect.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Christy Watkins. I'm the principal planner for the city of Nampa. Like she stated, the request before you this evening is for annexation and zoning to IL at 29 North Happy Valley Road so that the applicant can establish an auto repair business and use the existing house as a caretaker's residence on the site. So we've kind of changed up our staff reports a little bit, and we're going to start by analyzing the conclusions of law for you. So the findings for the annexation conclusions of law are that it must be contiguous to the city limits or enclaved by other properties. Staff finds that the property will be contiguous to the city limits on the south and the southwest, where the City of Nampa Airport runway meets North Happy Valley Road. Also, the proposed zoning district shall be consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan future land use map. Staff finds that the proposed light industrial zoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan future land use map designation of industrial for that area. And then the last one for annexation is that it shall be reasonably necessary to assure the orderly development of the city in order to allow for efficient and economically viable provision of tax-supported and fee-supported municipal services. So in this case, this particular conclusion of law does provide you significant liberty to determine whether the timing and location is appropriate for this type of use. So for zoning conclusions of law, staff looked through the 5 criteria, and the proposed map amendment would be in harmony with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan. We've covered that. The proposed map amendment would provide a proposed use or set of uses that would be reasonably compatible. Staff finds that the proposed use for auto repair services and the caretaker's residence would be reasonably compatible with the industrial uses already in the area. The proposed map amendment would make a change to the land use that would establish zoning compatible with the immediately adjoining districts. The Nampa Airport is zoned IL, so it would match that zoning. The proposed map amendment would not create a spot zone. The comprehensive plan future land use map is designated for industrial, so by zoning it IL, it would not create a spot zone. The proposed amendment would be in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary. Again, this is something that you have some discretion about. We do encourage these important types of land uses to assist the city to diversify its economy with new and renovated industrial properties. So based on the analysis that was completed and utilizing these conclusions of law, coupled with the findings and the conditions listed in the staff report, the project appears to meet all requirements, and staff can reasonably recommend this project for approval. So a little bit of information about the project. Looks like my map went away. That's terrible. To the north is Canyon County residential property. To the south is industrial, which is the Nampa Airport. To the east is Canyon County residential property, and to the west is, again, the Nampa Airport and Canyon County residential properties. City's water and sewer systems are available to this property. The only correspondence that we received was from the building department and the engineering department with their standard comments. The engineering department will require 50 feet of right-of-way be dedicated along Happy Valley Road upon annexation. The conditions of approval are listed in your staff report, and these are your motions. I will stand for any questions.
Just have a question. We're calling this an auto repair business with a caretaker residence. Is the owner not living in on the property? Why are we calling it a caretaker then?
Commissioner Kehoe, in our land use schedule, we have the option for residences to remain on the property without having to be converted for commercial uses by calling them caretakers residences.
Got it.
It's a loophole.
Yep. I think it was something like that, but wasn't sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we're going to go to public testimony, so I'll kind of go over how this works. You'll have 3 minutes to come up and give your opinion or ask questions to us that we will ask the applicant later. And at the end of your 3 minutes, we go to the next person. And then once public testimony is closed, we hear nothing else from the gallery, can't answer questions, can't call her out. And then the applicant gets to come up and respond, and then we will deliberate and decide. Okay. So I have the sign-up sheet for this hearing. I don't have very many. I have 2 people on here. I have Denise Martinez that's against it but doesn't want to speak. Okay. And then Linda Cicinelli is undecided. Do you want to speak? No, I want to really listen to what's going on. Okay. Right, is there anybody else that's present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided? Okay, you're Denise? Okay, so you're for?
She's not,
No,
Different application.
she's got the wrong one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sir, come on up and give us your name and address for the record, and I need my sign.
My name's Richard Snow. I live at 33 North Happy Valley Road, right adjacent to their properties. When these folks moved into that property, it was a mess. The house was a mess. The old shop was a mess. They have totally improved the properties. Anybody would be proud to have them in their community. And it would be, what I didn't understand to start with was that property has had people living on it and working on the properties there for over 30 years. Why now is it an issue? Something that wasn't correct there. That should never have been an issue after all those years. But, the city of Nampa should be proud to have people like this wanting to build and bring taxes and employment into the city. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak for, against, or undecided? Okay, anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Just curiosity, this property came to
Come on
the
up to the
commission,
microphone.
a while ago, didn't it? I remember this property come to the
It's
commission.
about 4 years ago.
Is it that long?
Yeah, or
Yeah.
more.
I was thinking it was last month.
My memory's better than yours. I knew it was at least a year ago.
But I would agree with the gentleman who just spoke, because I drive by that all the time, and the house looks great, the property looks great, it's improved, and it is, I 100% agree.
And really, the only reason you're here is because you're coming into the city before you were in the county.
Yes, sir.
So there's nothing like bad, but it just has to be that way.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of closing public hearing?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move to recommend approval of annexation and zoning to IL 29 Happy Valley Road, Ferrejo, Gallegos, with all conditions of staff.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the annexation and zoning. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Okay, now we're going on to public hearing number 2.
You guys can leave if you want to.
Yeah,
Or you can hang around with us all
You can
night.
hang around and listen. We like company.
do
Place
we,
does look really nice, thank you. I drive by it at least twice a day.
do we have the applicant, Blake Wolf, here for, okay.
Good evening. My name is Blake Wolf. I live at 843 West Horizon Way here in Nampa. What I'm bringing you tonight is an application to bring a somewhat large flag lot annexed into the city with what is now the city's largest designation for single-family homes, RS22. I want to start off this by saying when I held my neighborhood meeting, RA was what I was going for. That is no longer a zoning designation. They've gotten rid of it. So the next largest one, or the next one in line, is the RS22. So if there's any crossover, that's why tonight. This property is very unique in like so many infill properties are. One is there's no sewer, so we need to stay at larger lots to handle the septic systems with city water. We've also got the large overhead power transmission lines down the easterly boundary. These are the same ones that go through Red Hawk and Summit Ridge and Star Pass. So there's some unbuildable areas along the eastern part. And then the western side is all the bigger lots of Rain Tree subdivision, which is a city subdivision with very nice large lots with nice homes. That makes us contiguous and makes us legal. Everything else around there on the other three sides are county properties. And I feel like what I'm proposing is a very nice transition from 1 to 2 acre lots, which are the three sides of it, and then going to these bigger city lots that pretty much match what is touching on the west side in Rain Tree. As you can see from this picture, it's not a very clean site. This is what the neighbors have looked at for years. This will all be gone. It'll be serviced by a driveway and 4 single-family residential lots. I have agreed with the adjacent neighbors in those, I know 2 of them are here, but there's 3 green lots on the western side, the green grass in Rain Tree, those 3, to do a 4-foot privacy fence that I've agreed to that we'll agree on the color when the time comes. Just kind of help define the line there. I think that's all until you have questions.
How's a 4-foot fence a privacy fence?
It's really short neighbors. No, the houses in Rain Tree sit way below. In fact, it's about a 25-foot from the sidewalk in front of the homes to that blue line along the rear.
I figured it was something like that.
Yeah. Actually, the 6-foot would block completely all of their view. So 4-foot is what we. What's that?
You wouldn't see the sun either?
No, nothing.
No. We can't hear from you unless you're going to
Thank you, I
talk
appreciate
during
it.
public testimony. Thank you. All right. I think this one is yours, Rodney.
It is, thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to point out, first of all, you've got the request before you on the screen and in your packet, but the concept was revised from the original application, said 3 single-family homes. It was revised to 4. And so I'll do my best to just address that throughout the presentation today. That's not necessary to go back out to the public. This is just an annexation. This is a concept. And so if it were a subdivision and they said a specific number of lots, that would be different. But it's just an annexation at this point. So here's just a rough outline of what he plans to do with those lots and where that driveway would go. So staff recommendations, as you know, we've tried to put these up front in our presentations now and in your staff report about how we find that it complies with the conditions, the criteria in the code, state and local code. So it needs to be contiguous with city limits. It is. The proposed zoning district is consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan, future land use map, The proposed RS-22 does meet the low-density designation on our comp plan. And I just want to do a quick clarification on that. We haven't gotten rid of the RA zone. It's just that when we put in the densities in October of last year, we are now requiring certain densities. They have to fall within that designation of low-density residential. Well, those densities in the RA zone don't fall within the designation of low-density residential. They fall within the ag designation. So they could go in with an RA zone if it's on the comp plan, it has an ag designation.
Thank you.
Reasonably necessary to assure the orderly development of the city, and I won't read through the rest of that, but this is the flexible part where you get to decide. I don't conclude any of this because this is subjective to, is this appropriate at this time and location? And then the zoning, it basically follows the same things that the first criteria did about annexation. It meets the comp plan, it fits with the zoning, it's compliant with the densities, it wouldn't create a spot zone. So it is, as far as I can see, we can reasonably recommend approval of this project based on those facts, that it meets the code and it meets the comprehensive plan. As you can see here, here's where the property is, right in the center there, right on the edge of medium density residential and low density residential, which is the yellow. Here's a little closer view there, of course, but here's the zoning. And you'll find that most of the zoning around it is RS6. However, all of those developments aren't meeting the density required by RS6. This is at a time when we didn't require that specific density. And so they're larger lot developments, which are more consistent with low density residential on the comprehensive plan. So the zoning doesn't really match exactly what would be approved today. That's why he has to come in with an RS22 zone. Services are provided to the property. Single-family dwellings are permitted in the RS22 zone. Here are the dimensions that are required by code and the densities. And with it being 4 units, it's compliant. I just wanted to point this out. In your staff report, we also said that 3 units would be compliant. And that's because there's a large easement for power lines running along the eastern edge of the property. And so we're excluding that from that calculation for density. And so it would be compliant, but with 4 units, it's compliant as well. Development agreement is just an agreement between city and private property. So no guidance there in code except for that. Building department just said they'll have to follow Title IV. Engineering division, you have their report in your packet, and happy to cover any of those specifics here if you would like. Here are their conditions from engineering. Obviously a little bit different because there's 4 proposed new lots, but perhaps no difference from our engineering team says no difference there. So, and then there was a comment from the public. They opposed the project, and I'm going to try to name this person, Shauna Chakargi. Okay. Concerned that the subdivision road will connect to Raintree Meadows at Pearsall Court, resulting in property loss, traffic, and safety concerns, and as well increasing crime because of the 4 homes there, single-family homes. I just wanted to clarify that there's no proposal for connection into the Raintree subdivision, so I can't see that this is a valid concern. I've outlined all these specifics in your staff report. Happy to walk through them if you need me to, but I'm going to move along. It's not within walking distance of elementary schools. And with that, I'll just keep moving. Fiscal impact, the applicant has indicated that the homes are likely to average about $500,000, which is definitely a cost benefit to the city. We will provide services to them and we'll be able to cover those services because of the taxes that come in. Transportation, very minimal impact to that area for dwelling units. And then open space requirements, they'll have to go through that process as part of the subdivision when they come in for a plat, and we will make sure that they follow our conditions. So here are the proposed conditions of approval. I would just suggest that perhaps we need to add the one that was mentioned by the applicant to have the 4-foot fence on the western side of the property. And then, and I think the rest apply. And here are some potential motions for your consideration, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Rodney, the applicant's letter says that the sewer is not close and by therefore individual septic systems will be used. How close is city sewer to this application?
That's in there, that's in engineering's comments here. The closest sewer is an 8-inch main at the intersection of West Dooley Lane and Pasco Lane, about 535 feet east of the proposed development.
And then my next question was that very question. How close do you have to be mandatory that you sign on to the sewer?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Kehoe, the code for that is that if any portion of the property is within 200 feet of the sewer, they are required to connect.
Okay, they're 400 or 500 feet away, you said?
Yep.
And then the lady that wrote the letter was asking about Pearsall Court, and that's the one you're saying is not going to be connected, correct?
That's correct.
So the other concern was about safety, so there's no through streets, so there's no safety concerns there.
Yeah.
So all these things are negated by the fact that it's not going to be accessed.
Correct,
Any other
yeah.
direction. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Rodney? Okay, we'll go to public testimony. I have 2 people signed up. Victor Barrera, and you've said you don't want to speak, but you're for? Yes. So, and then we have Tom Dale, who would like to speak. You probably know how this works.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. I am Tom Dale. I live at 423 West Bitterroot Court, which, can you put that original map that you had up there again? Get back to that one that shows the homes and those kind of things. Yeah, that's good. First of all, I want to say I spent 18 years behind those desks like you are, and I just want to say thank you, Planning and Zoning Commission. This is a pretty thankless job, and I just want to thank you for what you are doing, your commitment of time. And Christy and Rodney, it's nice to see you still working for the city. It really is. We had a great meeting with Blake on the property there. When was that, Blake? A month ago or so? Freezing days. It was cold. It was cold, and all 3 of us who border this property, there's Victor Barrera, myself, and then Tasha and Rick John, who live in the further south. We are all in agreement to this proposal, and we like what Blake is doing. We do, and I agree with Rodney, that the requirement for the 4-foot fence should be in writing in the agreement. I've seen too many of these things change hands, and something that's not in there, it doesn't get done. And so that's the only thing I would say. We're not concerned about, Victor and I talked a little bit, we're not concerned about the 4 lots, because we originally talked about 3, but I don't think that'll be a real impact negative at all. So we're excited to see that happen. It's been quite a piece of property behind me particularly.
Yeah, well, me too.
And you, yeah. Yeah, a lot
Is
of
that your
stuff.
stuff in the yard there?
Well, you can see that in the picture, yes. There's quite a bit of,
It's stuff in there, all that.
yeah, stuff. Let's just say
Debris
it's
laying in the
stuff, yeah.
backyard, that's all yours, right?
all right. Yeah, and as far as the fence, just before I leave the fence thing, and Blake did mention this too, that he would propose to us color and material before it gets built, and that needs to be in the conditions of approval as well. Any questions? Well, thank you very much for the job you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else that's present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this matter? Okay.
Madam Chair, making a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing's closed. I think it looks like a much better plan than what's back there now.
Yeah.
And I think it's appropriate, cohesive with what's already there.
Yes.
I think it's a great project.
Madam Chair, I'll move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS 22 at 703 West Dooley Lane, a 3.47 acre parcel for Blake Wolf, with all conditions and conclusions of law contained in the staff report, and additionally, a 4-foot fence on that west property line that will be a design that will be agreed on with the neighbors later.
Color and material. Yeah. Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That is, one's done. Thank you. Okay, on to the next one. We're skipping 3. We're going to go to, okay, so we are going to item number 4, the annexation and zoning IL at Ustick Road. We have the applicant here.
I think we're skipping this one.
Oh, that one's been withdrawn, so we're not doing that one. Okay, the conditional use permit for a non, we have to continue it?
Madam Chair, yeah, you'll need to open the public hearing and then continue it to the date they've requested.
June 14th.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we're going to open public hearing on annexation and zoning to IL, zoning district 0 and, district at 0 and 0 Ustick Road. Public testimony is open. Our public hearing is open. So now we need a motion to continue it to date certain.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we continue this public hearing to June 14th, 2022.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that one's done. Okay, the conditional use permit for a non-commercial kennel license for 4 dogs. Give us your name and address for the record and tell us what you're trying to do.
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Manuel Aguilera from 90 North Morales Street. So I'm here I recently found out that I need a kennel license to own more than 2 dogs. And I've been having these dogs for the past, I've started getting my first dog around 6 years ago. And my last dog about a year ago, which is a small dog that my sister wanted. And so pretty much, I'm here to request the kennel license so I could continue having my dogs. I've owned them, the other 2, for about 5 years as well, and another one for about 3 years. And as of now, the little puppy my sister moved away, so pretty much I only have 3 dogs in the property. And every now and then, my sister brings her puppy and it's there with us. So yeah, it's pretty much just for me to continue having my dogs with me and, abide by the city laws.
Okay, we'll hear from staff and we may have some questions for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Rodney.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, as you can see, the requested action is on the screen and in your packet. But with the statement just made, I guess we just need to modify that down to 3 dogs if you were to consider this project and approve it. It's a conditional use permit, and this is your decision. It does not go on the city council unless appealed. Comprehensive plan designation here is medium density. As you can see, it's completely surrounded by medium density. It's in the RS6 zone. Everything around it is single-family homes. Public utilities already service the property. This is for a non-commercial kennel license. And it's anything, again, over 2 dogs. And that's in section 10.3.2, outlines that as requiring a conditional use permit in the RS zone. So here are the conditions, the conclusions of law for a conditional use permit. You know these. They need to be compatible and will not adversely affect the livability of the or appropriate development of abutting properties in the surrounding neighborhood. They need to provide a convenient and functional living, working, shopping, or civic environment, and they need to enhance the successful operation of the surrounding area or provide an essential service to the community or region. And this is one of those that we don't necessarily put up front and then find conclusions from staff. Conditional use permits, it is a very subjective matter, so you need to decide whether it fits into the neighborhood and if you can place conditions on the project or the request to make it compatible. So that's definitely your role. Correspondence, we've had a couple of agencies respond, Title IV for Building Department, and then the Nampa Animal Control indicated kennel for 3 pit bulls and 1 small dog was out back and is in unclean condition with strong odors obvious when standing in the neighbor's property. The condition wasn't illegal, but the kennel and yard is not being kept clean from dog feces. Dogs are happy and healthy though. We had several comments from the public and Karen, I believe you placed additional comments or sent those on to the commission, is that correct? No late comments, okay. I actually did, I guess beyond the one that I found was Sally Smelser at 82 North Mirage Street. I included that on the screen here. You should have gotten that already, so I won't read that, but those were consistent with the other ones. Concerns about noise, the smell, concerns about safety with pit bulls. They indicated that they had a phobia and that the pit bulls had gotten out before and they were concerned about that. And they were concerned of the potential to to breed the dogs and cause additional concerns there. They had concerns about a history of noise throughout the day and the night. Okay, so the surrounding land uses are primarily single family. Applicant indicated 4, now 3 living on the property, so that would be the 3 pit bulls on the property. You need to just consider whether the public testimony and the letters and the applicant's comments to determine if this use is appropriate for the area. And then public interest. Several concerns from neighbors have been submitted as of the date of this report. These concerns primarily related to condition of the property, the odor of the property due to not cleaning up after the dogs, barking and noise violations, and safety concerns. The applicant has indicated that they have increased the number of dogs over time. And again, if you approve the conditional use permit, I would suggest you put in conditions that would address those concerns. Here are some recommended conditions. You will need to modify number 2, I think. 3 pit bulls and 1 small dog. Of course, the 1 small dog be removed. And then I just suggested this as a potential if you want to approve this. Applicant shall clean and maintain the property so that all dog feces are disposed of in an enclosed container at least once weekly so that smells are mitigated to other properties. That was the best I could come up with for how to address that. Enforcing that is challenging, but I think you're going to have neighboring properties that will complain if it's not enforced. So if you get 2 people who complain and in writing to me, then we will bring it. It basically stops that conditional use permit from being valid, and then they'll have to come back into you for to reinstate the conditional use permit. And here's a couple of potential motions for your consideration, and I would stand for questions.
Rodney,
Yeah.
in Sally Smelzer's letter, talked about breeding. How often or how frequently does that become a commercial kennel? How do we know?
Good question. I think we've had this at the, one of our previous meetings. We haven't got anything in code that defines that. So a conditional use permit is a very public process so that you can determine whether this feels like a commercial kennel. If it does, then it's valid for you to deny it. So you can put conditions on there. We're probably going to look at this language in the future and see if we can see how other communities are handling that. But it's challenging to determine that, because when people have their pet dog and they have puppies, and they're just giving them away or selling them to family or whatever, it's hard to know whether that's commercial or just for personal use. So, yeah, I think it has to be a public process.
Rodney, are all those dogs licensed?
So as part of the condition that I put on here for the CUP, we said that they must come in for the kennel license. As part of that process, we will look at every single dog to make sure that they are licensed.
All right, let's go to, any more questions for Rodney? Okay, let's go to public hearing. Okay, we have the applicant on here, which is good. Okay, we have against the proposal, Monica Fuse, and you wish to speak? Come on up to the microphone, give us your name and address for the record, and tell us what you're going to tell us.
Perfect. Good evening. I am the neighbor abutting the gentleman trying to get this kennel license. I do have, so you guys.
Name and address for the record, please.
I apologize. Monica Foos,
Before you get going.
88 North Mirage Street, right next door. I wasn't sure how to approach this. I do, for you guys to get a better picture of what I am living with, I do have pictures.
You can give them to,
To the young lady in the end down there, and she'll disperse them to us.
Oh, one for each, is that? Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me or not without this. I also went through the Nampa Police Department and had them pull the complaints from animal control that went to the house for the last 5 years. I also have these to present.
you can, when she comes back.
She comes back.
Yeah.
Is this your property?
That is my property. So you'll see that 6-foot fence, and you'll see little slats and just a little roof. It's my fence. The dogs, if you'll look to see the roof right next to it, right above the fence, that's the dog pen, his dog pen. That's where he has his 3 pit bulls. And I want to let you guys know that it's 3 pit bulls, and they have a Pomeranian inside the house. So that one small dog is still there. It was just out this morning barking. So I don't know what he means by that small dog not being there. So just to let you know.
Michelle.
Let's see, so what you see against my fence is pallets. I had to give privacy because his dogs were peeking through and seeing me on the other side, or my dog, and they would constantly try to bark. I never have peace back there. I go out there, they hear me open my back door, they start barking. I open my garage door. If you look on the 3rd page, you'll see my garage door. I open it to just go out, I get barking. You'll also see on the 2nd page where dogs are fighting. That's the pit bulls fighting because they never are let out of that pen. They never let them run. So they get irritated with each other and they fight. So I'm listening to fighting quite often. Let's see, what else? Oh, and as far as the smell, as you can see on that picture, that whole deck on my backyard, I cannot use. I cannot use to go out and sit on my back deck because it stinks. I get the feces, the urine. His ground is concrete, so it just sits on there. And so when you get 90-degree weather, 100-degree weather, you could imagine the smell coming into my yard. I cannot enjoy that part of my yard. I'm always on the other side.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you for
Appreciate your testimony.
this. Welcome.
Okay, we have Alyssa Fuse, and you did not wish to speak? Okay, we are on the record as against. Ken and Effie Dickerson? You're going to come up and testify, or are you? Yes. Okay, come on up. Give us your name and address for the record, and tell us.
Thank you. The question I have is...
Name and address for the record first.
The record is 601 Hudson Street and Smith. It's Drive, actually. And the one question I wanted to start out with is this property going to be zoned permanently? And if he were to sell the property, will it still be zoned as a kennel?
A conditional use permit is with the person who applies for it. If he moves, it goes away, he has to get a new one at the new property. Neighbors can't come in and use his conditional use permit.
Okay. And as a testimony, I have listened to the dogs bark also, and I live about 100 yards away, and I can hear them, plus the other dogs in the neighborhood too. And they're on a continuous basis, they are. And the fence around there is not very big for them to maintain. They're always locked up.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anybody else here that would like to speak for the proposal? Against? Undecided? Okay, can we have the applicant come on back up here? So do you have your dog's license right now?
License, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I found out that I needed the kennel license and I needed to do all this, they told me to start off with trying to get the kennel
Sure.
license, then, yeah, I could do all those steps to
So
do all that.
are you actively breeding these dogs to sell puppies?
No, that's all wrong. Yeah, that happened 3 years ago when my third dog was with me. And since then, my only female that I have has been fixed. So there's been no puppies ever
So
since.
2 males and 1 female is what you have?
Yes.
So she's fixed, okay. All right, the noise and the smell and all that great stuff, how are we gonna?
Yeah, so as far as the noise, I mean, more than 50% of our neighborhood is filled with dogs. I hear dogs everywhere. So to just attack my dogs is kind of, I mean, it's bad for me, bad for my dogs, if, you know. So as far as them getting out of the house, they have not gotten out of the house. I've seen other dogs, other pit bulls outside of my house roaming around. So again, to be attacking my dogs, that's kind of, you know, not the case.
Stack of complaints that tall with dogs at large and barking and.
Yeah,
a
so
lot of-
like, yeah, so as far as, you know, like I said, more than 50% of the neighborhood has dogs.
Okay.
And as I said, more pit bulls around the neighborhood.
Sure.
And as far as
Cleaning.
cleaning, as far as cleaning, I do maintain it clean most of the time. There has been times where, you know, it does pass more days than it should. But as far as maintaining that clean, I'd have no problem to, you know, keep it up to standards of the smell not.
Do they ever get to go out in the yard or?
They
get
go
out?
out mostly every day. And for them to say that they're fighting, they're dogs. They play with each other, they bark at each other, they growl at each other. People who has dealt with a lot of dogs, or even two dogs, they know how they are.
Yeah.
And so that's why they mistaken the fighting for rough housing or whatnot. And again, as far as noise, I hear every day and night, from houses down, dogs barking. So
Yeah, the problem
again,
is you're the one applying for the conditional
Yeah,
use
yeah, and-
permit,
and I
so
would
you
hate
have
to-
to be the gold star.
right, and I would hate to attack other household
Right.
people, but
One
I-
dog barks, they all bark. I
Yeah,
get
yeah,
it.
so I had to point that out, that it's not just my house that have dogs
Sure.
in the premises. But yeah, I mean, as far as the only thing that I would do is maintain the kennel a little bit cleaner. 'Cause it's been clean, it stays clean fairly most of the time, but there has been times, I will admit that there has been times where I don't have time, to clean up and leave it a little bit longer than it should.
Right.
But, having,
Three
going
dogs
through
makes
this.
it a little.
Yeah,
you
it
gotta
makes
do
it a little
bit
hard.
more frequently.
And going through this process, obviously, I mean, I'm gonna be held to a little bit higher standards than not knowing or not going through this process of
Right.
trying to get that kennel license.
Does anybody else have anything for the applicant?
No, I would just say, encourage you to recognize, like most of us here, we have neighbors, and we want to have good relationships with our neighbors. And so I would just encourage you to work with your neighbors and listen to their concerns and do whatever you can to mitigate the condition to help them to be comfortable. Because they bought their house there too, just like you bought your house, and everybody
Right.
did. So do your best to work with your neighbors and make sure that you're doing that and maintaining good relationships like we all need to in order to live happily together.
Right, yeah, definitely.
Dogs ever get out? Your dogs?
Out of the
Your
house or out of the
property?
kennel?
Yeah, so they're roaming free or?
No, like I said, they haven't gone out. Out of my property, the house. They've gotten out of the kennel, obviously, out to the
Right.
backyard, but not, they
Not
don't.
roaming the neighborhood?
Yeah, they don't roam the neighborhood. I've seen other dogs, other pit bulls that roam the neighborhood. And so maybe that's what some people might think they're my dogs, but, there's a lot of consideration to think about, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Rodney?
Any opposed?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, public hearing is closed.
Rodney, when you were talking about complaints from the neighbors would cancel out the conditional use permit, would a complaint to the police department count as well, or does it just have to be to you?
The code is written that it needs to be to me.
Okay. The reason I ask, the police reports that we have here in front of us, 2016, there was one report, 2017, there was a report, 2018, none, 2019, 2, 2021, 4 complaints, and 2022, 1 complaint. Already, this is the fourth month, we've got a complaint. How many complaints do we have to have? Can't you guys do anything in the meantime without having citizens come into you?
So, Madam Chair and Commission, they do not have a conditional use permit, nor a dog license, nor a kennel license right now. So there's nothing for me to hold them to until they get that CUP and that kennel license, and then I can withdraw it if there's
Do you feel like with a
complaints.
history like this, we have to give it to them and wait for somebody to complain, or can we just count these 12 times they've already had complaints?
It's up to us.
Correct, yeah.
Never mind.
We have discussion and then we will vote as a body and say yes or no. What do you guys think?
It's what, at this point, what would happen if we denied it?
Madam Chair and Commission, that's a great question. Right now, they are allowed to have 2 dogs on their property. So they're going to have to bring it down to 2 dogs, and
Or what'll happen, that's my question is, what if we deny it and?
It goes through our animal control, and they cite them and fine them for having that dog there.
So it's not fiscally,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's fines.
I'm concerned with 1 dog, 2 dogs, 3 dogs. Animal control's been out there within weeks, and the notes are a lot of feces and the smell from the neighbor's yard. And as a dog owner myself, I can't stand for that. I can't stand for a neighbor's dog to be barking all the time. You're gonna have animals, you need to take care of them, and you need to keep them from being a nuisance to your neighbors. And the reports I'm reading, I don't see where the animals and the feces and stuff is being taken care of like it should be. And I, for one, am against allowing the CUP. Granted, it can be got down to 2 dogs, but even at that, you need to take care of your dogs. You need to clean up after them and keep them from being a nuisance to your neighbors.
Tom, I tend to agree with you. My only thought would it be better to have 2 dogs with no conditions or 3 dogs with these conditions that we've outlined?
Rodney?
Madam Chair and Commission, I just want to reemphasize that they still have to get their license for each dog, and whether the police department feel that this is appropriate or not is a different story. I'm not sure how they regulate that. I can look into that and report back to you, but again, they'll have to get licenses for each of their dogs, regardless of whether they get approval for a kennel license.
I think this shows how the police are gonna regulate that. They come out, there's verbal warnings, there's written warnings. I haven't seen a ticket written yet, or as many complaints have been.
Yeah, and I agree. But 12 visits from the police department? I mean, we're wasting the resources of the police department by having them send people out there all the time.
But that doesn't mean it's gonna stop. They got 2 dogs, they're gonna play, they're gonna fight, whatever they're gonna do, they're still gonna do their business, and they're still gonna make noise, and they're still gonna make a mess, and it's still gonna smell. They can call the police, they're gonna come out. It's gonna be the same thing over and over. I mean, to Drew's
So we
question.
give them the conditional use permit?
Well, to Drew's question, is it better to have 3 dogs with a conditional use permit or 2 without, and then the police are coming out all the time?
I think I agree with what Tom has said, but I also think that he's gone through the effort to come here and apply for this conditional use permit. So he's making a good faith effort to try and do it the right way. We've given him counsel. There's going to be conditions placed upon this. And so what he does with this opportunity and a chance, if we grant this conditional use permit, is up to him, right? And if the dogs continue to be a nuisance, if they continue, then the conditional use permit gets revoked.
He's had years to change his habits, and he hasn't changed them.
But he hasn't come here. That's my point.
Like he's
He
more
stood
afraid
in
of
front
us
of
than the
us
police department?
and said that he is willing to try this, right?
I would
So,
rather not have the police come to my door, thank you very much.
I sure, I know that.
With you guys than them.
Somebody want to make a motion and we can vote and, or argue some more?
Not arguing, it's discussion.
Discussion, lively discussion.
Well, if you want to vote, you know what my vote's going to be.
We got to have a motion.
So does this, if we were to grant the conditional use permit, does it give the police more, I guess, would they be more apt to write a ticket than just give a verbal warning? Or do they even look at this?
So, Madam Chair and Commission, I would say that, how do I say this exactly? The animal control officers are, this is the most I've ever seen them engaged in addressing these kinds of concerns the entire time I've been here at the city. Citywide, right? They are enforcing animal control conditions more fervently than ever before. They've got a crew here that's new, and they're making sure people have their conditional use permits and their kennel licenses, and they're citing them, and they're going out and making sure that that they are complying with code. So as far as what's happened in the past, I think, just my own perspective here, but I think that they've got a crew here that's more likely to enforce the conditions you place on a CUP. Far more likely.
Could we comment on it to them and say, hey, we approve this with the conditions? Would you be aware that we're looking for you, police department, to do your job diligently rather than winking and nodding and letting it just go with a warning or a verbal reprimand?
No,
No.
I don't think that's an appropriate comment for the police. I think they're doing their job. I think they're getting out there, they're, you know, it's, every time they get a complaint, they're
Nothing gets
responding to
solved.
it.
He's here.
He's here to try and make it right.
Okay, you guys go your way.
And it's not necessarily the police that enforces the CUP, it's the planning and zoning that enforces the CUP, correct?
But that's the thing, if
Animal
we
control.
have a CUP in place, then animal control is more likely to, they have something.
There's a little motivation there.
Hey, these are the things that we've got to look for, so we're going to look for them.
And then they can be fined for these offenses versus how it's going now.
And I, you know, with the CUP process, there's always that, the public can make that call, and if the dogs continue to bark and disrupt the neighbors, it's one call to the city, to Rodney's office as a complaint. They get 2 complaints, come back, that CUP is gone, and it goes back to
We're right back to square one
where we
again.
are now,
Yep.
except there's no CUP, and then they have to reduce
Reduce the number or pay
the
fines.
pack by 1.
And I think that's a good thing about this CUP process, is that it's brought it to the attention of the neighbors that, hey, you don't, you know, if you're gonna call the animal control, that's fine, but also call the city and let the city know and planning department. Because the CUP is gonna be in place, and that does take effect, so.
And we have that process in place for a reason, and I think it's incumbent upon us to ensure that our citizens have access to that process. And so, although I don't agree with the dogs, and, you know, I have my own opinion about that, the process is there for a reason, and I think we afford the applicant the ability to use that process, and also the citizens who would be impacted to use that process also. And then when that process is run, then the animal control is back out there and they go into they step it up, it's fines, whatever it might be. And I think that's fair for everyone, as much as we can make it.
So is there a motion coming?
So, yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve this conditional use permit for a non-commercial kennel license for 3 dogs in RS6 Single Family Residential Zoning District at 90 North Mirage Street for Manuel Aguilera, representing Maria Ovasquez, with all conditions and conclusions of law as proposed in the staff report. I don't think there's any additional special considerations that need to be added to that.
Was the cleanup part of that? Was there already on
Cleanup
there?
was part of it.
Yeah, it's
in
number
Rodney's.
3.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh, it's already in the recommended.
okay, got it, yeah.
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the CUP. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So we got 2 opposed. Steve and Tom. Okay, that approves the CUP, so now I'm going to read this, my favorite thing. This CUP will become effective 15 calendar days from the date of this hearing unless an appeal has been filed with the Planning and Zoning Department with the appropriate fee. No action should be taken on the CUP until the appeal period has concluded. The applicant must confirm with Planning and Zoning staff that there have been no appeals. So somebody can pay money to file an appeal, and we're back in here. So wait the 15 days and get your dogs licensed. Thank you. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, annexation and zoning to RS 22 for Happy Rails subdivision.
That's you, Jesse.
Happy Rails.
Happy rails, happy
The
trails.
surveyor named it.
Happy
and
Valley.
He just kind of left it. It's next to the train tracks.
So it's, okay.
Yes.
Maybe
So
happy rails.
exactly. So it is Happy Rails. Jesse Christensen, 2151 West Willow Point Avenue, Nampa, Idaho. Thank you.
Commissioners and Madam Chair. You guys have a tough job, so I understand. I hope to not take a lot of your time. I think we've heard most of my presentation already this evening from number 2, I think. We have a small lot. We're looking to subdivide it into 4 individual, wow, the house lots are missing. 4 individual lots with septic on city water. And that's really about it. Just a small subdivision. We're next to the train tracks. We're adjacent. So I think we have our path to annexation. And I'm here for questions when you're ready.
Okay, we'll hear from staff and,
Well, I have a question, Jesse, if I could.
oh, okay.
Just curiosity question.
Yes, sir.
You sent this letter, and it says 10 miles southwest of Meridian, Idaho, but you didn't say from Nampa, Idaho.
You're in the wrong
Meridian
town.
more important to you than Nampa is?
I am a Nampa resident. I don't know.
Just yanking your
A
chain.
brain, yes. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
I'll make sure everything else says Nampa on it from here
Thank you.
forward.
All right, Christie.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. If he's as busy as I am, I can totally understand a brain freeze once in a while. The request before you this evening is for annexation and zoning to RS 22 and short plat approval for the Happy Rails subdivision. Again, we will go over the conclusions of law for annexation. Staff finds that the property is contiguous to the city limits on the north side where it meets the railroad tracks. The proposed zoning of RS 22 is consistent with the comprehensive plan future land use map designation of low-density residential. And it is up to you to determine if it is reasonably necessary to assure orderly development of the city. As far as zoning is concerned, again, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The use proposes 4 single-family residential lots, which is reasonably compatible with the area. It proposes to change the land use map and establish a zoning that is compatible with adjoining districts. RS 22 is compatible with the zones and in the area as they exist now. This would not create a spot zone, as the RS 22 does match the low-density residential designation. And staff finds that the proposed annexation and residential development contribute to the character of the area. It is less rural than the agricultural residential land use setting on the west side of east side of Happy Valley Road, but it is compatible with the single-family zones that are on the west side of Happy Valley Road. So based on that analysis, staff feels that it is appropriate to recommend approval to City Council. There was some traffic analysis done on this. There will be some right-of-way required to be dedicated along Happy Valley Road, 25 feet. And then there's some other engineering requirements that are standard for this review. So again, this is the zoning map. It is low-density residential. There is BC to the north and Canyon County residential properties to the southeast and the west. City services are available and have capacity to serve this property. The correspondence that was received was from the building department with their standard Title IV regulation requirement. Nampa Parks will require a side path along Happy Valley Road. GIS would request a new name for the private drive. And the engineering division, as stated before, has some comments. So the minimum lot size proposed for this property is 30,842 square feet. They can go up to 32,000 and they can go as low as 17, I believe. They do meet the lot width and depth as all the properties are greater than 80 feet. The conditions of approval are listed in your staff report, and these are your potential motions. I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Christie? Okay, we'll go to public hearing. I just have you signed up for, is there anybody present that would like to speak for, against, or undecided? Do you have any questions for Jesse?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing's closed.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve, did you have some? Approve the annexation of zoning to RS22 zoning district and subdivision court plat for Happy Rails subdivision at South Happy Valley Road for HECO engineers representing Luis Arizomendi, with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break so that we can get through this next part and I won't have to leave.
No, I live on that side of town because everything's happy.
Happy.
Yeah.
Really hope you guys continue the bike path along Happy Valley to the north, otherwise our 60-foot long section of it's going to look awfully silly.
Gonna look a little silly, isn't it?
Like about this, it's like long enough for one bike, right?
Right, yes, exactly.
Oh, yay.
Okay, going back to public hearing item number 3. We have the applicant here. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is M. Atal Karim. I'm the owner of Delta LLC. The address is 1297 West Pine Avenue, C101, Meridian, Idaho, 83642. Okay. So this is the second attempt for the approval of this project. You might already remember that last year, September, we had a P&Z Commission meeting. And the process actually started 2 years back, 2020. This is the location for the project, the one in the center, the yellow mark, which is RD zoned. And the land in the north of that is RS6. And there is a commercial lot right in the east side. And Lake Lowell Avenue is south of that. And Deer Flat Canal is also south of that. And across the lake and road, there is RS 8.5. And in the left, there is a small boundary with RA. So there was a previous development agreement which was 44 townhouses with a mix of duplex and triplex. Last year, I proposed this one, which met all the city codes and requirements, but still it got denied, even though it met all the density requirements and all the city codes. It was denied in P&Z Commission meeting. Later, I went to the City Council, and these are the results from City Council. So City Council was not too positive about 76 units, but they liked the proposal that I made on that meeting with a 56 unit, which is a less density than the RS6. So I tried to find a density which is less than neighbors' density so that they don't complain about density, traffic, or heavy load on the community. So those things are mitigated when I proposed a 56 unit. And then in the new proposal, it has a big playground and a park, and the purpose of the project is also changed. Previously, and now it is planned to sell off those townhouses instead of renting. And the City Council did not deny this since they liked the new proposal 56 unit, and they sent that to P&Z Commission and asked to hold a neighborhood meeting, and then I did that. This is the description of the new proposal, which has less density than RS6. It will be a 56-unit luxury townhomes. Top-graded interior and exterior appliances will be there. Beautiful architecture on the main entrance gate. And 4 townhouses under one roof. It means there will be 14 buildings, and it will have a vibrant color theme. And it will have 2 or one side wall will be shared. And the size of each townhome will be 1470 square feet, 3 bed, 2.5 bath. And there are currently 160 parking spot, almost 3 parking spot per townhouse. If needed, we can add a little more. And we'll have dedicated and shaded parkings. There have enough green space. Actually, there are 27% of open and green space. And if you look at that in the left side of the picture, there is a playground, big playground. And in the right side, the purple one, that's a small park. And in the next page, I have listed the major changes compared to the previous design. The first one is density reduction compared to even lower than RS6. RS6 has a density of 7.26 per acre, whereas my proposal has 7.17 acre. And I have added playground and the park. The size of the playground is 36,000 square feet, and the park is 15,000 square feet. In total, almost 50,200 square feet. There is another open space, which is about 24,000 square feet, which is in the south side. So there is a total of 27% open and common space. Another change is changing for fourplex to townhouse. The previous design or proposal had some of them were fourplex, some of them were townhomes. Now everything is townhome, means each townhome has its own lot. And the target of the townhome again changed from renting to selling them off. And let's go a little detail into the picture. In the south side, in the right south side, you'll see the access road where you have to go through a bridge. Means we have to build a bridge, and there is another emergency exit to the north that is for fire department. Okay. So these are the benefits that this project will actually bring to the community and the city. The first thing is a green environment. I think 27% open space where there will be green trees and parks and playground. That will make the environment green and more beautiful. And less density, as I told you before, this is an RD zone, but I'm proposing density less than RS6. So actually, it will add less population to the community or city. So when you have less population, it will have less traffic, less burden on the school, less burden on utility. All these things will come.
Can we have the gallery please not talk during this so we can hear the applicant?
And as a townhome, we will pay more taxes to the city, which is also beneficial to the city. And this is actually a great opportunity to own a new home for medium home buyer or first-time home buyers. And we are thinking that approximate price of this, each of these townhouses will be close to 380 to 800. It depends when the building is finished. And it will add a diversity to the community. More young people will be encouraged to move in that part of the city, and that will help the economy to be sustainable. If you always oppose young people to move into the city, then it is not sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Parker Bodley, Senior Planner, Planning and Zoning. The action requested today from you is the modification of the development agreement. The original concept, which came before you previously, was for 48 townhouse units and 28 multifamily units. This new revised concept is for 56 townhouse units. The gross density is 7.17. History, this parcel was approved by City Council to annex in as a RD zoning. The annexation was approved with a development agreement. As was stated, the original plan was 44 units, and that's duplexes and triplexes. The planning, this body took the consideration of this item in September of last year and voted to deny the plat and deny the development agreement modification. And in November, City Council voted to remand the decision back to this body. The surrounding zoning, Copper River Basin is to the north, Carriage Hill North is to the south. The BC portion to the east is vacant, and to the west is a single-family home zone RA. As has been done already in previous items, we're changing the way we present and do our staff reports. In this case, staff would support approval based on the concept plan, as was previously came forward, was a plat, and that has since been changed to a concept plan. So with the concept plan, it would be going with the development agreement, and a plat would have to come back in the future and to meet that concept plan. So the decision tonight is not in regards to a plat, but in regard to the concept plan and adding that into the development agreement. As far as development agreement, the criteria to guide the commission and council in approving the development agreement is largely absent from city and state statutes. Thus approving is purely discretionary in your case. The staff approval is based on the concept plan, where the density proposed is within the medium density range. The concept plan currently in the development agreement is shown here. It's about 6 dwelling units an acre gross. There's also contains some design elements, which are generally found in the design review code. Staff analysis, covered the development agreement. The land uses in the area are largely single-family residential, and some commercial to the east. The comprehensive plan has the area as medium-density residential here. The RD zoning allows for single-family attached, 0 lot line structures with the proposed gross density has been covered, 7.18. Generally, however, 0 lot lines produce a larger amount of density just based on the product type. And the city wouldn't discourage that, as it's a different product type for a different consumer. The city of Nampa has determined that it's in favor of providing a mixed residential opportunities, especially for infill developments such as this. And that's voiced in the comprehensive plan for the city. Safe routes to school, Nampa High School is 2 miles, Lone Star Middle is 1 mile, and Roosevelt Elementary is 1 mile across Middleton Road. The landscape plan will be required with the preliminary plat when that comes forward. There's 2 proposed common lots here, which would be counted towards qualified open space. The 3rd common lot, which mainly consists of the canal, would not count as qualified open space. The Nampa Bike and Ped plan indicates that a 10 to 12 foot pathway would be a 10 foot wide to 12 foot wide pathway is called for on the south side of the canal. The amount of qualified open space shown on the concept plan is 1.15 acres, and that's about 18.5%, which would exceed the 15% requirement. The applicant indicated at 25%. That would include the canal area, which we wouldn't consider as qualified open space, but it still meets the 15%. The parking requirement is 2 per dwelling unit. The applicant stated that there would be 160. I counted 157, but I may have counted wrong, but it's still well over the required amount. There's the concept plan, the open space, and the density proposed. In medium density, the gross density is a range between 2.5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. So this is a product that would fit in that range. Correspondence, we received multiple letters, which have all been sent to you. There were a couple last minute comments received in the past couple hours that voiced the same concerns as everybody else, that involved traffic, the open space, density, the need for retail, property value decline, the amount of crime and the distance from public services. We received typical correspondence from building and Nampa Meridian Irrigation and the fire department. Generally, the same comments from engineering. A traffic impact study was prepared in 2007 that warranted a right turn lane. The project would be required to construct the right turn lane, and an updated study would need to be done with the final plat. The conditions of approval are in the staff report. A potential motion is there for you, and I will stand for any questions.
Parker, looking at the map that they gave us, or their layout they gave us, 3 of the Copper River properties abut the park and 3 the playground. Is any kind of recommendation to differentiate between the properties? That they put like a solid fence, a sound barrier fence, or anything like that? I mean, the noise and carry over.
Madam Chair and Commissioner, the code would not require any kind of buffer, but you could certainly make a condition to add that.
Okay.
Isn't there already vinyl fence all the way along that property line?
It's exterior, the subdivision, it's already fenced.
I think Copper River Basin's already fenced that. That whole thing's fenced already.
Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna go to public
Can I ask a
hearing.
question of Parker real quick? Since I was the only one who wasn't here for the last round. Am I understanding correctly that if they decided to build 44 units, they wouldn't even need to come here?
Commissioner, they would need to come in with a plat
Right.
that would match that, and that would just come to you, not to go to city council,
Right, okay.
but it would still be a public
So
hearing, yeah.
the only reason they're here is because they want to do more than 44 units?
They would still have to come with a plat.
Well, right.
But yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, I have 6 people that have said they want to speak on these 2 sign-up sheets. But when I call your name, if you want to speak, you absolutely have the right to come up and talk your 3 minutes. So I think everybody is against. I have 2 people that signed up undecided, so I just want to make sure I get that right. Lakey is the last name of 1, and, okay, so you guys are just here to listen and see what's going on, okay. All right, okay, so we're gonna start with Jerry Steele. You're on the record as against. Roger Sinelli. Come on up.
My concern is.
Give us your name and address for the
Roger
record.
Cicinelli, 11714 West Quintail Drive. Yeah, my concern is it's my understanding that there's going to be a strip center in there too on that piece of land. No strip center. The sign, I believe, when it was sold, says that there's going to be single-family homes, but also part of that land is dedicated to a strip center.
The corner is community business.
That's what you're talking about, is on the corner, not
Yeah.
the application we're talking about tonight.
And is it, when you say community business, does that mean,
That's what it's zoned presently.
and what does that mean exactly, community business?
It's a lot of things.
Retail?
Parker, do you want to?
Okay, so if you look at that piece of property, Lake Lowell is a 2-lane undivided highway that has multiple school bus stoppings every day of the, Monday through Friday. I don't see where that Lake Lowell between Middleton and where this is going to be, and even further up to Midway, where there's any way that with the canal there that it can be widened. So what you have is a 2-lane undivided road where there's going to be an awful lot of increased traffic with as many homes are going to be put in there, not just this gentleman's, but you say there's other proposed homes in there, plus the businesses that are going to go in there on the corner. That's still going to create a lot of traffic. So I'm just concerned for the traffic that is going to be there, considering that they can't expand that road.
Okay, we'll ask about that. Okay, then we have Sean Yang. Okay, you're on the record as no. Jordan Martinez. Okay. Pauline Stancy. And you'd like to speak. Come on up.
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Pauline Stanzik. I live at 706 South Lancaster Drive, just opposite of the area where they're planning to build. I'm in the Meadowcrest area. First of all, as a retiree, I moved to the city of Nampa because I love the almost rural feeling to it. I like the open spaces. I like the area, the way that the houses were made and so forth. And I didn't notice any, like dense populated type housing like apartments or townhomes and so forth. And that was one of the things that really drew me to the area because I lived in that kind of an area and I did not want to go back to that. Also with the understanding that the more housing there is, the more stress there is on the population surrounding it. So I would say that I personally, I don't mind having housing in that area. Obviously, somebody's going to build sometime. But if it's just single detached homes, fine, because it fits in with the rest of the community. If you'll notice all around our community, there's several different proposals that were made, and they also changed it into single-family homes because it just did not fit within the community the way that it looked. I do have something that I wanted to read from a prior hearing that we had. This is by a Jeff Kirkman. That area of town should be preserved for single-family homes as it is a beautiful area close to the lake. There's not much room out there. It's away from central services and shopping, and there really is nothing out there. So we always have to travel, which creates more traffic. So even though it's a high-density project, I do get the compatibility issue. I go out there all the time, and I would love to keep the same feel, the low-density properties out there. I think we need to preserve that type of area because sooner or later, we're not going to have this type of area anymore left. This type of project would be better close to town, and that's why I'm leaning to oppose the project. This is by Jeff Kirkman. Ron Van Alker Jr., he made a statement, "It seems too dense for me. It was approved for 2006, and now we've added thousands of people to that area of town, and now we're looking at something that is more dense on an already crowded infrastructure system in the roads."
15
It would be a good project for another location in the city and would fill a good void for affordable housing in another location. But I don't like it in this location. I couldn't agree more with these comments, so.
Okay, your 3 minutes are up now.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for hearing me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't know I was going to testify.
Yeah.
You did good.
Guess we know where you stand now.
Okay, so you guys need a print. Marcia Lyman? Maria Lyman, and you're on the record as no. Denise Martinez? On the record as no. Cheryl Higley would like to speak.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you, and staff. And I come before you this evening with,
Name and address, please.
oh, sorry, Cheryl Higley, 12441 South Abbott Downing Way here in Nampa.
Okay.
Okay, now I'll start. I have many concerns about this project, but tonight I will focus on one, density. A proposal for the Falcon Townhouses subdivision came before the Planning and Zoning Commission last year on September 28th. While the number of units has been reduced in this new proposal to 56 townhouses and 14 quadplexes, the density is still much higher than the surrounding neighborhoods, which are detached, single-family homes in RS6 and RS 8.5 zones. The developer keeps pointing out that this is not a high-density development, and he would be right, based on 56 dwellings on 7.8 acres, yielding a gross density of 7.17 townhouses, and the 2040 comprehensive plan classifying 2.51 to 8 dwelling units per acre gross as medium-density residential. Per page 87 of the 2040 comprehensive plan, it uses gross density instead of net density, which was a change from the 2035 comprehensive plan. For those in the audience who may not be familiar, gross density includes internal roads, walks, common open space areas, easements, and residential lots in a development. However, I would submit to you that if Falcon Townhouses is using gross density to claim that it is within the medium-density residential classification, then Carriage Hill North, with 275 dwellings in 119 acres, yielding 2.21 dwelling units per acre, should be classified as low-density residential, which the comprehensive plan indicates as 1.01 to 2.5 dwelling units per acre gross. However, the land use map included in the packet, this one, shows Carriage Hill North is medium-density residential. If new developments are using the new gross density standards of the 2040 comprehensive plan, then they need to be compared to the existing neighborhoods using that same gross density standard. Otherwise, it is an inaccurate and invalid comparison. And earlier, the developer was comparing the Copper River Basin having a 7.26 density as RS6. That's a net density. He's comparing that to his gross density of 7.17 acres. Those are like comparing apples and oranges. That's not a fair comparison. That is an inaccurate statement, and that's why the audience was gasping when they said that and making comments, because that's not a fair comparison. Thank you very much. I hope that you will recommend to deny. Thank you.
Okay. Bob Higley, don't want to speak, but you're on the record as no. All right, page 2. Don Davis would like to speak?
Thank you very much for listening. Don Davis, 11444 West Sear Drive. I'm going to reiterate everything that's been said before. I would like you to take in consideration the traffic. They say that there won't be any impact, but we have to consider Carriage Hill West, Summit Ridge, Herring Springs, and Little Red Hawk is not even considered yet. It takes right now probably 25 minutes to get from our house to 55, let alone to the freeway. It's going to add more. I'm not against multiple family dwellings, but they need to be closer where most of them are, towards Westgate shopping area, close to the freeways, in order for people to get out and be gone. We're faced with traffic that's just unbearable now. You almost feel like a prisoner at home because I can't leave now because of the traffic. I can't leave this time because we got to leave at certain times. Again, I'm not against them, but they just need to be in areas closer to the freeway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Leslie Harrier, on the record as no. Sharon Skinner. Tom and Allison Bilello. Sorry. We have you on the record as no. Janine Butler as no. Randry and Audrey Riken. Okay. Eric and Lene Williams, said maybe you want to speak. You want to speak now? Okay.
Hello, name's Eric Williams. Address is 12680 South Bell Crown Place, Napa, Idaho. Looking at the proposed plan of the housing where it's going, kind of makes me think of taking a cup of water, filling it almost all the way full, and then trying to put ice inside it. You're gonna have spillover. There's just not proper room for it. You look at other places that have built similar type dwellings, they've been planned in conjunction with proper facilities close to them, where they don't have to go as far for shopping, they don't have to go as far for the schools. None of this has been planned out together in conjunction. It's all done after the fact. And what was brought up already before, there's a bunch of other subdivisions around that are being built. There's no residents in them, so that traffic isn't in place yet. Another concern on top of that is every year we see in the paper deaths for kids drowning along canals. I didn't hear anything or see anything about the safety aspect of putting anything for that canal when you're putting family dwellings right next to it, especially in that amount. So I think the big thing is thinking about what's in place and the safety of the people of Nampa. Adding the extra traffic is going to jam up people, cause safety issues. We have four-way stops everywhere around there. We don't have traffic lights. Doesn't seem like they have any plans whatsoever to put any traffic lights in place because of the cost associated. That's just going to be further issues down the road. It's a lot of houses in a very small area. How many single-family dwellings would be approved to go into that spot to match what the rest of the community is? So now if you're only going to restrict single families to a certain amount, why would that many dwellings go in that small of a space when it doesn't fit any of the area around there for miles and miles? I can't think of any place that has anything close by, and I've grown up here in Nampa, Idaho, going on 42 years. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you guys for your time tonight.
Okay, Gerald Butler, on the record as no. Steve Grant. Amber Vincent says maybe. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Amber Vincent. My address is 12317 South Laramie River Avenue in Nampa. And I want to reiterate a lot of things that were already said, but to not sound repetitive, I'm actually going to focus on an aspect that has not been brought up tonight. So the loop that I am in the Copper River Basin is directly to the north of this proposed townhouse complex. And something that I noticed that the only road access into this townhouse division is directly in the bottom of our private loop. And I didn't see any other road access into this plan. So my understanding is that all of these family dwellings are going to be coming in through the Copper River Basin, through the end of our loop to get into their residential area. Thank you. So that road right to the north, that is the bottom. I don't remember what that road is, but my street, South Laramie, is on the left. And that road is already in place. It's already there. So based on that map, it appears that the only entrance into this development is going directly through our private subdivision and directly through our private loop, which I know many of the residents, when we purchased our homes in this area, we didn't sign up for that, to have our loop be a thoroughfare into this development, the added traffic, the extra crime that can potentially come into that. It's a statistical fact. You get higher density, you're going to get more crime, you're going to get more suspicious activity that are coming in the neighborhoods. Something else I wanted to point out is that in our division, we pay HOA fees to protect the assets we have there. We have a basketball court, we have a pool, and we have big open fields and spaces. And currently, that's already an issue as it is that the property management company is working directly with to try to curb outside people from coming in and from using and accessing the resources that we pay for as homeowners. And when I look at this plan, it is going to dramatically change the feel of Copper River Basin. It's going to change the feel of the direct road access into it. And I'm not opposed, I want to read it, I am not opposed to higher density housing, townhouse housing, but it does not fit in this community, in this area. And that is one reason I am opposed to this, because it directly affects myself, my neighbors, and it changes the entire feel of our neighborhood that we were not aware of. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Seth Vincent, you're on the record as no. Do you want to speak? May I? Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Seth Vincent, 13217 South Laramie River Avenue. It's been a very interesting night listening to testimonies of citizens, members of the community that have brought concerns before this council of this proposed development. I personally have sat in your seats, have been on that side of many benches. With a development like this, it's a very difficult decision to basically make a choice on your decisions, your opinions, the opinions of the community, what someone can and cannot do with their land, based on zoning, based on restrictions, based on what is applicable at the time that the property was initially developed within the city. How many times it's changed hands, I'm not sure. Somebody now owns it, wants to capitalize on that investment. But as I look at this, and as my wife reiterated, the access, which I understand is a fire service access to the north, there's a bridge to the south crossing the canal. Again, that's exposure, that's open to Copper River Basin. I was actually walking my dog on Sunday down around that loop and flushing teenagers off of that little dead end strip down in the dark. Don't want to know what they were doing, but they didn't like me nosing around their car. But it sends a huge message. The feel of that community, the feel of that end of town, of being single-family homes, of being the open spaces. It's a very difficult decision that you're in. And I urge this council to really take to heart the citizens that are here that have written their names on the forms to oppose, to say, you know what, we're not okay with this in our community. We really would like the council to maybe there's other ways for this developer to capitalize on their investment on their property. Maybe there isn't, but truly listening to the citizens of the community that have some serious concerns, traffic, the impact, a lot of the things that still have yet to come to fruition around that entire end of town. When I say end of town, I'm just looking at, a half a mile, maybe a quarter mile in each direction on the things that are going to impact. And then you add this on top of it. The analogy that the gentleman gave of a full glass of water and we're going to throw ice cubes on top, great analogy. And so please listen to the citizens of the community, those that have lived there in that area for a long time, those that recently have purchased houses in a beautiful new community, a new subdivision that's highly sought after, and says, you know what, this is a great place, we want to raise a family. And that's why we're here tonight. That's why I'm here tonight, to voice my concern, my opinion, that I ask this council to say no to this. If the developer continues to come back again with different proposals, that's their choice. But I would ask this council to listen to the citizens and do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Corliss Watkins, we have you down as against. Richard Watkins, the same. Stevanovic. I didn't want to try your first name. I would have messed it up, but I can say the last one.
Slobodan. So my name is Slobodan Stevanovic. I live on 11244 West
Rosette Drive in Nampa. And I'm against this proposal. And if you look at the picture, it's mostly like a parking lot. So I estimated the measuring on the Google Maps, that's approximately quarter of the mile length. So when you compare it to the Walmart, the length of the Walmart parking lot, it's a 0.1 mile. So this is double the length. And can you imagine standing on that one and looking at the parked cars? It's literally like a parking lot. And when you look at other communities surrounding, they're single home families and mostly like a nice, well organized and planned communities. So also, when we're talking about the price, he was asking like comparing something to see it. And when you compare the townhomes, they're usually, or what I estimate now, about $270 per square foot. When you look at other housing, it's about the same price range, if not cheaper, if you go slightly bigger houses per square foot. Also, like there is no play yard and playground to play here, so and other people were complaining that it will go to their Copper Basin. I live on the other side in the community, like Carriage Hill North. So we are all expecting that these people will be crossing to our communities and enjoying our amenities and for which we pay. And like he wants to attract younger people who are probably more active. And when you look in this plan, it doesn't have anything for them to walk around. That's probably nobody wants to walk in the small circle around. They will probably explore other places, and the other gentleman mentioned that there is an opening, so probably they will be using that area to go to Copper Basin and using their open fields more. Also, when they said that this was approved, it was approved in 2006 when nothing was around there. So if it had been built then, the whole area would be looking differently. But now, waiting 15 years and try to do something that was 15 years ago, I think that it needs to be readjusted and be built in a similar way, like a surrounding, so like a single family home. Also, we had a meeting with them, and there was 30, 40 people, maybe even more, who came and tell them like, we are not opposed of you building anything, but we are opposed of the type of a building that you want to do. So everybody was saying and expressing themselves that we want the single family homes because mostly it's like a family is living there. And I want to mention something like the previous gentleman built 4 houses on 3.5 acres of land. This is 7 acres of land, and it would be like 8 houses comparing to 50.
30 seconds twice.
To 50 some homes.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. It's getting late. My brain is turned on. Sanford Young? Did I say that? I'm going to say no, I agree with the comments. Okay. Okay, we got you on the record. Wendy Speck? Here. And you are on the record as against. And then Carol James. We also have you as on the record as against. Okay, that exhausts my sign-in sheets. Is there anybody present that has not spoken that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on the proposal?
Can I change my?
You haven't spoke, so you get a chance to come on up. Yeah.
What I'm gonna do is change my position.
Okay.
My name is Gary Lakey. I live at 11702 West Quintail Drive, Nampa, Idaho. I came here undecided, and I'm against it, for my wife and myself both.
Okay, we got you on the record for that. Anybody else would like to speak? Okay, we're going to have the applicant come on back up here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Let's see if your notes and my notes match.
Yeah, let's try to answer the first question. Who quoted the Councillor Jeff and Councillor Ron, who is not here?
Yeah.
And those are mostly based on the previous proposal, 76 units. So those are not valid yet. Okay. And the next neighbor, she tried to redefine the density for RS6 or how the density is calculated, net versus gross. I think I made the density requirement, otherwise staff would not approve me, right? Another one is somebody complained that if there is a fence along the canal, yes, we will have a fence. So that's not an issue. And another neighbor said she didn't find any access road in the south. She thought the access road is only through their river Copper Basin. But the reality is we have a main access road through the Lake Lowell Avenue. And the one in the north is the emergency access only for the fire truck.
So it'll only go through Copper River Basin Fire Department is the only one that's going to use that?
Right.
Okay.
Is that gated?
Is it gated? Yeah, only for fire department.
Locked?
Fire department will have the access.
It's locked and gated for the fire.
Yeah,
department.
yeah. Right.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. Is it chained or is it locked and gated with a gate? Or do we know? Thank you.
Okay, we'll get that from Daniel.
We can change if the city requires something. I'm not also sure that what is the city code is for that. The last one is, another complaint was there is no playground and park, and the resident of this subdivision will use the amenities of the Copper Basin. But it's not true. We have one big playground and a park, which is about 50,200 square feet. Okay, I think that's all the points I wanted to make.
Yeah, traffic is the only one, so.
Oh, traffic. So I already mentioned that if somebody goes and builds single-family home as an RS6, he can build more than 56 houses, and then traffic will be more. And everything like traffic, utility, all the burden will be more compared to my proposal. And I just want to make one more comment that it seems that I'm going back and forth, and I'm not getting clear indication that from P&Z Commission, because last time I made all the city codes. There was a previous development agreement, and my proposal was they made all this requirement. I also made this. City Council denied it. P&Z denied it, but City Council liked my 56 unit proposal. That's why I came back here. If you guys again deny it, I'm actually out of two of those decisions. What Planning Commission is saying, what City Council is saying. City Council liking 56 units, and if you today said that you don't like it, it's already 2 years. I spent 2 years.
Right.
I'm losing a lot of money on that.
Okay. Well.
So I hope you will, City Council and P&Z Commission will have a single voice.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Do we want to close public hearing when we talk to staff?
Can we ask him questions?
We can ask him a question right now. Yeah.
I want to start with. Somebody mentioned the canal. Is there any plans to, or is that a Daniel question?
He said he was
going to fence it.
put the fence up.
He said it would be fenced.
The canal, I thought the question was the fence along the north side.
No, on the south side also there will be a fence.
Okay,
So-
so you're not burying the canal, but you are fencing it.
Fencing it, yeah. But I talked to irrigation department. They might have a little different requirement. We'll try to follow both you and their requirement.
So it seems like what we're deciding here today is whether or not you can do 44 units or 56 units. Right? And would you not move forward if it was only 44 units?
There is one more comment I want to make. So 44 unit can be changed to 10% more without any additional hearing or
48
anything.
units.
It is 48.
Okay.
So either 48 or 56.
Would you move forward with this project if it was 48 units instead of 56?
If it's 56 is not allowed, then I have to, I'll be fine with that. But I don't want to spend much time. I already spent 2 years.
No, I understand that. So I guess, I'm sorry if we went through this last time when I wasn't here. you're asking us to let you build basically 2 more of these buildings, 8 more units.
Yeah, so then 48 means 12 to 14, so either 12 or 14, difference is that much.
Yes, and you've heard the public opposition to
I
this
hear
density.
that.
So it seems to me like if we want, what is, maybe my question is, what does the city get out of it? If the city allows you to build more units, what is the city getting out of that deal? You know, if we're modifying our agreement to allow you to build more, which maybe we will, maybe we won't, but what would be the benefit to the city?
We're modifying the agreement to go down, is what we're voting on tonight.
We're modifying the agreement? No,
From 76 down to,
no, the agreement is 48. He tried to do 78 or 76,
Yeah.
and now he's trying to do 56. So, I mean, I'm fine modifying agreements and helping you out, but what would be the benefit to our city?
Yeah, so I already listed the benefit. The first one was it's a big open space there. Even though Parker was saying that this is the open space, which is 42,000 square feet, falls in the canal, but still nothing will be built there. So that's actually open space, no construction there. And on top of that, I have 50,200 square feet park and playground. That's huge. And other benefits are, if we, this project will actually bring less population as a net compared to single family. If it is 48, it will be even less. And we'll pay more taxes to the city as a townhouse. And it's a great opportunity for medium income people and young people. I think we should encourage young people to move in. We should not oppose them. And as Rodney mentioned in the 1 hour ago, that there's a high demand of this kind of property, and we should not actually listen to that. What is high demand?
Thank you.
Yep, I think that's all my comment. Thank you.
any other questions from the applicant? Okay, public hearing. Entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Daniel.
Okay, Daniel, come on down.
I knew I couldn't go through the whole night without asking you a question.
Or 10.
Or 10.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'll address a couple of the comments that I heard. One regarding the ability to widen Lake Lowell because of the canal. That is not a problem. Lake Lowell can be widened when it is warranted. The current traffic volumes there and the traffic volumes that are projected with the existing approved developments and this development would not warrant a widening of Lake Lowell. Intersection improvements obviously are triggered typically before the need for an actual road widening project. The intersection of Lake Lowell and 12th, or Lake Lowell and Middleton, is not on our current capital improvement plan. But as we construct the number of intersections that we have within design now, those are additional intersections are added on the back end of that. And the impact fees that we get from developments like this help fund those. At approximately 55% of the funding comes from those impact fees.
Fire access.
That is an emergency access only. The fire department's desire for those is a chained, and if they come through, they bolt cut and go through, and then dictate having that, the lock put back on to chain it up again.
So it prevents vehicles.
It's emergency vehicles. It's an emergency access only. So the only time anyone beyond emergency services would use it is if there were, say, an accident preventing access into the development from the other. You may have some temporary use of that, but it would be very, very short-lived and very minimal.
So would the fire department be completely against putting an actual gate across there? It was like made of vinyl?
Yes.
They could just kick it open and...
No, they don't. They do not want that.
Big trucks.
Any other questions for Daniel?
I do, Daniel. One of the people that came up to speak mentioned that their road was a private road. and There's no private.
That was incorrect. Copper River Basin's roads are all public right-of-ways.
Just want to make you say that out loud.
The reality is, when Copper River Basin was approved, it was anticipated that those, when the properties to the south of them developed, that the public roads would extend and that would come out to Lake Lowell. This scenario with the private drives in there doesn't have that happen, but the intention with that stub street was that that would go out in the future when it was.
Give us an update, if you would, please, on the conditions along Middleton Road. The Orchard roundabout will be open when?
That's actually a signal, and they should be done by June, is my understanding.
Okay, and then what else? Isn't there a roundabout along there someplace?
There are no roundabouts on Middleton Road corridor at this point. There may be ones in the future. The intersection of Midland and Lake Lowell is out. We've awarded that intersection. We're having the pre-construction meeting next week, and we'll have timelines for that with anticipated construction this summer.
This summer, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Okay, I have a question about the gross density versus, can you kind of explain
Sure.
how this is okay?
Madam Chair, when this project first came back in September, we were operating under a different code, where we analyzed projects based on gross and not necessarily on net. Now we've put into code where subdivisions have to meet a net density. The net density would be the entire property where you, excluding right-of-way, common areas, easements, so all the non-buildable areas, and you take the number of units and you divide it by the acreage left. This property, the net density would be just over 11. The allowed density, net density in RD zoning is 12.44, so it's within the net density range, as well as the gross density that's for the medium density designation in this area. There was a couple other things that I wanted to point out. As far as the existing development agreement, it's for 44-unit duplexes and triplexes, whereas the proposal tonight is for townhouses, privately owned. It was brought up about the commercial space there's two commercial parcels on the corner. There's a whole list of possible tenants uses that could go in those spaces. They haven't developed yet. Generally, commercial does have generates more traffic than residential. So those two parcels could possibly create more traffic than this development would. I'm not sure if you had any other questions.
Nope, that's all I have. Did anybody else have any questions for Parker?
Yeah, maybe just clarification. So development agreement, because I think there's some concerns, especially some ones that were submitted in the email is the change, the back and forth. It used to be rentals, now it's townhouses. Enter into a new development agreement. What would happen? I know as far as the legal process, but is that all that we have as a city, is to go through that legal process if that development agreement is not kept on the part of the applicant?
Madam Chair and Commissioner, the development is an agreement between the developer and the city. So if they don't develop it accordingly, then there's really no path forward for them to develop it that way. It would have to be modified.
The development agreement on our end would have to be modified if they develop,
Yeah,
or we would go to court.
Well, we just wouldn't permit it.
Oh, I see what you're,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see him come all the way up. Then I was on board with you. Because I do think that's a concern with some residents is that, you know, they said rentals, now it's going to be townhouses, and what happens if they just start renting the townhouses out rather than sell them?
And I think the confusion is where the initial application for this development agreement had townhouses and fourplexes in it. This revised concept is all townhouses, all private owned units.
So they're just going to have to sell them off no matter what.
Whoever buys those units
They have the
could rent
ability
them
to
out
rent
just
them
like
out.
any other house.
Any other homeowner, yeah.
That's what I wanted to kind of get to a little bit, is that even though there's that concern, someone could buy that townhouse and turn around and rent it out as an investment property. We have no control over that whatsoever. So that's where I was headed, and thank you for.
Same with any house, though.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's,
Absolutely.
Parker, what's the difference as far as the taxes and how it's taxed, ownership versus rental?
no
You know.
homeowner's exemption.
You get a lot more taxes
More
off
taxes
of
out of
non-owner
rental.
occupied.
Yeah.
You don't get the homeowner exemption.
Sorry, Parker, we're just taking over.
Yeah, I would ask the real estate expert.
Done a good job of educating us.
Insurance agents and realtors, we know this.
We'll answer your question for you.
Any other questions? So we have to, DA modification to approve the concept for 56 townhomes. Or, and it meets code, obviously, or it wouldn't be, we wouldn't even be having this discussion, so.
We closed public hearing, right?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. It's just us now.
I am right with you, I know, right?
And I live in Copper River Basin subdivision, and I knew when I built my house, there was gonna be apartments there. And that was always something that I knew was coming. And I don't know if you're,
Public hearings
hey,
closed.
I'm just speaking. You know, my realtor made sure and disclosed that to me. That was something I was very aware of before I built. So, you know, I'm not sure why this is a surprise.
Well, it's zoned that way. And zoned that way for.
Yeah, it's zoning, yeah.
You know, even though all the boxes have been checked for the city and zoning and ordinances and law and all that kind of stuff, I get that. But there is a reason why they come here, and it's not just to rubber stamp and pencil whip everything through. That's why we have this discussion. I think a lot of our responsibility here is to discuss the intangibles of a development in a particular area like this. And, you know, I do remember my comments from before. I appreciate you reminding me of those. But I stand by those. I appreciate the developer reducing the size, the footprint of this as far as the building and stuff. And I really do appreciate that. I appreciate a little bit more, however, the development that is going on out there and the kind of development that is going on and the feel for that area that I think the city does. There's certain areas of the city, when you look at it, there are certain areas that are a little bit more dense, and this is what the whole zoning map and all that is for, so that we can plan kind of long-term. I think in my opinion, I think the vision for the city in this area is to kind of keep that more rural, less dense feel. It's out towards the lake. So
But when somebody meets all the city code and meets all our laws and owns
then why
that
are they even
property,
here?
then they should be able to,
But why would they come to this commission then?
Rodney?
And thank you, Rodney.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, typically when you have a subdivision come before you, if they're compliant with code, there's already an entitlement to move forward. You don't have a subdivision coming here, you have a development agreement, which is just an agreement between two parties. And you have full flexibility to decide whether you want this or you don't. There's no kind of entitlement to say, even though they meet code, they should be able to build whatever they want because there's a development agreement in place here. So if you feel comfortable with it and you want to adjust that development agreement, you're more than welcome to do that. You have that flexibility to do it. Otherwise, they're left to the development agreement that's already in place, and they can move forward with that development agreement.
You know, and I look at the compatibility, and I look at, the first thing I noticed when they put up that concept plan was the parking lot. That's the first thing I thought of was a parking lot.
You can land planes out there.
Yeah, you almost could. And that in this particular area is incompatible in my opinion.
Almost sounded like a motion.
No, those are just simply my opinions. I'm not making a motion at all. At this
You know,
point.
I get what you're saying, and I've listened to what everybody said, and I understand what you're saying. But I think this gentleman's back here again because we've already gone through this process, right? He's already come here, and we've listened to everybody, and the city council says, hey, no, too dense. You're gonna need to back it off, and that's what he's done, right? He's come back and he's made his compromise. He's lowered the density, and he's come in and he's made a compelling argument for why this is different than the last development agreement, right? And so I understand it, but I also understand that I worry about somebody getting strong-armed into doing exactly what somebody else wants them to do with their land just because the majority of people that live in that area don't agree with it, right? This gentleman here has come in and he's listened to them already and made a compromise. And if I look at the project, and I'm with you, Jeff, I see that and I look at the parking and I'm like, that looks like a big old multifamily project. The parking just doesn't look right for what's being proposed. And so I would encourage you to look at that and try and figure out a better way to propose that. But that being said, the Copper River Basin, if you're looking at the project, it's almost like Copper River Basin's back is to this project, right? Because they got a big fence there. You've got this long strip of land that what do you do with it? You know, if it's not single-family residence, does that mean that we just can't do anything with it? And I don't think that that's a tenable position to take either. So I think that there has to be, and that's what this process is for, there has to be a give and take. And this gentleman has already said, okay, I'm gonna back it off. And so because of that, even though it does seem a little more dense than you would like, he's already made a concession and said, okay, I'm gonna bring it down, and I would be willing to go with the project.
I'm on the similar thoughts as Matt. I don't know that 2 buildings is gonna really make that much difference in overall density. I mean, he already said he's gonna move forward if we deny with 48, which he's legal to do. So is 2 buildings really gonna make that much difference in the overall density? I don't know that it is.
But I think that the ownership part of it is a big deal.
I'm still undecided, to be honest with you. But I think one of my we keep having comments about having to drive far away for everything, that there's not shopping and schools. Well, I mean, there's a Walmart on that same block, and there's 2 schools within walking distance. Well, further than I would walk, but. Yeah, you could ride your bike to them. But it seems to me like we want to develop the city so that there's mixed uses in every area where we have businesses, we have housing, we have, little communities. So we're not driving to one central area to do all of our shopping. And businesses don't come to places that don't have residents. So we have surrounding medium density residential. We have this pocket of duplex, RD, right? Right next to some BC zone that can be developed for some community business. Like, if we want to encourage smart development with lots of different types of uses where people don't have to travel so far, I think this is the way to do it. And I don't know, like Brett said, what's the difference between 14 buildings or 12 buildings? But I don't like the parking lot either, though, so I don't know.
Well, I agree with you guys, Drew, and that we always talk about diversity in housing types, and all we build is single-family homes. We need to have, as the gentleman said, properties for the beginning families. When I first got married, and the first property I ever lived in was a townhouse that I rented. And saved my money, my wife and I saved our money, and then we bought a house. And that's what I look at this. This is a way for somebody getting started, a freshly married couple. They can go into one of these units. They're buying these instead of renting. But it's not a high-end unit where they're gonna spend $2,000 a month in rent or homeowners properties. So, to me, I like the diversity of the project in where it's at. Because we have all these single-family homes, and I live over there too. So it's my neighborhood, but I would rather see this in there than I would more homes, single-family homes. I think the mix in the neighborhood would be better for us.
Question for Parker, you got one more question? Is there something in the agreement about HOA? Is this gonna be HOA? Okay.
I just wanted to add a couple of comments myself, for one. And I sympathize with you guys. I understand the being compatible and flowing from one size homes and yards to another. But again, this agreement was in 2006. Neither one of those subdivisions, any of those subdivisions, were even platted out back then. So this was in place before anybody's houses were built. So whether it's public record. If anybody was concerned, they could have found this. If your agents didn't tell you or your developer didn't tell you, but this has been in place longer than all your homes were there. So even though I sympathize with you, we can't go against what's the law and what the guy's allowed to do with his property based on the agreement.
Well, he's only allowed to do 48. Yeah. So, I mean.
So this has been an agreement, this has been in place since before Carriage Hills and Copper Basin and all that, so.
So does somebody want to make a motion? Do we want to hash it out some more?
Michelle, we haven't heard from you. What have you got to say?
For the project.
She's just gonna make it short and sweet.
Very concise, that's good.
Wish everybody was so concise.
What are you looking at me for?
I was trying to look past you, but I just couldn't do it.
Madam Chair, I think that, as a commission, I think we've all expressed it. I think the majority of us understand kind of what we're up against. And so I guess I would be the one to move to recommend to City Council the approval of the modification of the development agreement to modify to the concept plan Exhibit B, which will be attached, and conditions of approval, Exhibit C, of ordinance number 3584, changing the site plan, the number of buildings, associated parking, and conditions, and future subdivision preliminary plat for the Falcon Townhouses subdivision on 3 parcels addressed 0 Lake Avenue. Parcel numbers as shown.
Lake Lowell Avenue. You said Lake Avenue.
Lake Lowell Avenue, yeah. In an RD, 2-family residential zoning district for Delta LLC, Atal Kareem, with all conditions listed in the staff report.
Okay, hold on, before anyone seconds that, can I ask, as you were reading the motion, I was thinking, a question popped into my mind about the parking. So is that okay, Madam Chair? I want to make sure that to staff. So 112 spaces is what the minimum requirement is for this project?
In code, the requirement is 2 per dwelling unit plus any ADA spaces required by the building department.
Would it be a townhome?
And it's not a commercial.
These are townhomes, no ADA parking. So someone do the math for me real quick.
It was 112.
112, and there's proposed 157.
160, 157, one of those.
Depending on who you ask, right?
Well, we'll do the real counting when the plat comes in.
And that was what Jeff, that's why I was thinking the same thing, to maybe put something in there that they need to work on that. But since it's just a concept, then I think that they still have the ability to, when the preliminary plat comes in, they'll dial it in at that point.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So do we need to put something in this?
I don't think so. I don't think so because this is a concept, right?
Do we need to have the fence on the canal put in there?
It's in there. Do we have a second on Matt's?
Second.
Michelle, we got it. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to recommend approval of City Council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, this will go to City Council. You'll have your chance to talk to them again, and have a good night.
Thank you, Zuri. Gotta be careful what I say.
You're gonna be getting.
Are you a Todd Lincoln? Relative? How are you?
Want to shake your hand.
I was there until midnight.
That was in place long before those subdivisions were built. Well, even Carriage Hills wasn't built before that was in place, so.
Peggy,
You can't.
sad about it is
I think just tell them right now, hey, we'll take it to 112, no problem.
When I bought my first house, something got built, I had all this view and everything.
Yeah, and I think that they keyed in on it. Yeah. And maybe even, not even if it's like, maybe have them like more pods with some islands in there would really help.